What's up, you filthy flapjacks? I'm Wes Mullenberg, and you're listening to the Ear Coffee Podcast. For today's episode, I chatted with several members of the folk rock band Stone Arch Isles. Last week, they put out a pair of great EPs. The band talked about their unique origins, the community that they've built, and how their songs get made. Without any further delay, here's my conversation with Phil, Matt, Alex, and Dan from Stone Arch Isles. Welcome to the latest episode of the Ear Coffee Podcast. Today I am joined by 4 out of 6 of Stone Arch Isles. Glad to have you guys on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks.
Let's start going around, starting with Phil. Do introductions, name, and your primary instrument or performative thing that you do in the band.
Gotcha. I'm Phil. I play guitar and sing.
I'm Matt. I play guitar. Do some singing, not much.
I'm Daniel. I sing and play ukulele. A little bit of drums sometimes. Yeah.
I'm Alex, and I also sing and play keyboard.
Cool.
Yep.
Well,
We're missing Noah, by the way, who plays bass, and Carlos, who's our wonderful drummer.
Yeah. Pour one out for both of them as you're listening and mourn their recent loss.
Already
Yeah,
done.
they're fine. They're just not here.
Whenever any band member skips out on an interview, we pretend that they're dead because clearly that's the only thing that
dead
could
to
take
me,
precedence.
Yeah,
The
it's
only
gonna be
thing.
tough to repair the relationship after
Yeah,
that.
just have to find a new rhythm section. Like, shoot, dude. Whenever I talk to bands that haven't done a whole lot of other press, if any, I'm not entirely sure, especially more long form podcast interviews. I just love starting at the beginning, finding out how the band came together, how each of you got started with music. So my kind of traditional first question is, how did each of you get started individually with music? And was there like a specific moment that you knew, or just a time that you knew that it was something you wanted to pursue beyond just kind of casual enjoyment, or like, I guess, taking it to the level where you play in a band, you play shows and you record music?
Right. You just go on the table.
Yeah, I'll start with this one. Music has always been a big part of my family, so I feel like I got a good amount of exposure pretty young. Started playing guitar in 7th grade, and I don't know, it all just kind of happened really organically for me. I never really set out to even start this band. Been hanging out with the twins here for a while, a couple years before the band started, so we would just play music in the living room and play some covers. Eventually we started writing some stuff, but mainly it was just like, hey Phil, you want to come over and jam? And everyone was around, and it all just came together.
Yeah. Matt and Alex and I all went to high school together, so we had been in choir, knew each other previous to going to school together in college, but that's kind of how I started playing music. Eventually I was just like, okay, I want to keep singing, but I don't know any instruments. I need a way to accompany myself somehow. Picked up a uke and played in the dorm. Freshman year is kind of where I started playing a lot. And then like Matt said, we'd play covers in living rooms and stuff, and it was just fun. And eventually when Phil joined in, we got into a lot more kind of writing together and got, I guess, more serious as time went on because we wanted to be.
Someone who could actually write lyrics, which is a big problem in bands.
Yeah, that's kind of my take on it.
Just to interject, Alex, Matt, and Daniel all write really good lyrics. That's like a nice compliment, but everyone in the band is a very good writer in their own way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have too much to add. Same thing as Daniel and Matt. Went to high school, got into music and choir and musical theater and stuff. Realized that I, enjoyed it a lot then, I would say. Just kind of carried that over into jamming and stuff. I don't really have too much more to add to that.
What shows were you in for musical theater? Just as
Hairspray, just some nice background parts in Hairspray. Both of us.
We weren't actors by any
No. Just fill in vocal singers and
fleshing out the harmonies and whatnot. Mm-hmm. Respect that.
What else? A Christmas Carol.
Carol one.
Yep.
Then there were a bunch of themed variety shows.
Daniel sang a Bob Marley solo.
It's true.
I did. It was what was that one? I can't even remember.
Was
what
it not
was.
waiting?
Was it One
Was it not
Love?
waiting in vain?
One Love, I think it
It was
was.
One Love. Oh God. And that was.
That's so grossly inappropriate. Like in retrospect, like just to have a bunch of like white kids in Egan singing Bob Marley. Like,
Hey,
I don't know.
All
It's
right.
about love, man.
It's in the spirit of
I guess that's
appropriation.
true, but
Love is universal.
I don't know. Sure, it is. You're right. You're right. It's just kind of funny. So for me, I picked up a guitar for the sole purpose of being able to write songs. I've been writing lyrics as a way to just kind of like make sense of life and like experience and what I'm-
Specifically intended as lyrics or
Yeah.
poetry that kind of evolved it. Okay.
lyrics. Definitely lyrics. Like it was always humming it from the get-go. I had a friend growing up named Evan, who I actually met my first guitar teacher through Evan. We had the same teacher, a guy named Joseph Loban, who is like this mad genius guitarist. I think he lives in Thailand now. He's like a really interesting character. Kind of like an offbeat guy, but just a real genius and a wonderful teacher. But through him, I was classically trained in guitar, and everything was for writing. So everything was to accompany the lyrics I was writing, and he pushed me to be a better writer lyrically. And I love writing songs, and for a long time, it was just like a very solitary pursuit. It was just kind of like to feel better. If something was going on in my life that I was having trouble dealing with, I would try to write a song about it, or even not try to write a song. It would just like happen. That would just be kind of the coping mechanism, which is actually kind of how we got started as a
You
band.
can see that come through in the music that we put together a lot.
Totally.
I mean, Phil has a massive hand in the general ideas of what the songs are about. And yeah, like you said, basically anytime I've ever seen Phil go through a hard time, he comes out with like, you know, a few songs that are always amazing and always really, really powerful about it. So that's
Thank you, man.
I think it's pretty interesting, just how everybody kind of approaches lyrics differently. But one of the things that Phil kind of imparted on all of us is like, instead of thinking of cool things to say, think of what sentiment you want to share and then a cool way to say that. You know?
Yeah.
So it all starts from a feeling or a general
definitely.
idea before any words come.
Yeah, to just to have something for everything to ladder up to. But I was gonna say I think we had been friends and had been like jamming a little bit, but the first time we ever wrote a song together, I'm Jewish. It was Yom Kippur and I was fasting. This is like junior year of college, so 4 years ago at this point. And Matt texted me asking if I wanted to come over. I was in a really kind of a little bit of a dark place. It was just about a year after I had lost my dad to a short battle with cancer, and I'd written the lyrics to Picture Frames that day, or at least like most of them that day. And then I came over and I was like, I actually have these lyrics. Like, do you guys want to write a song? And everyone was down. And like within, I think, less than 2 hours, we had pretty much the skeleton of Picture Frames written. And it was like the first time for me that someone had like joined in and like helped me create something that was based on like a really painful, very like lonely feeling. And that was like, I don't know, there were just chills around the entire room from everyone in the band, everyone not in the band. Yeah.
It was really cold in there, but yeah.
Yeah, it's fun to be all creative with these guys, but you know, truly, it's been a pretty incredible support system for all of us as well. So
Was it all 6 of you at the first kind
time?
of jam session?
at the time, Alex was watching the Vikings game.
He was in and out of the room.
In and out,
Yeah.
No, it was mainly like it was kind of like the four of us,
And then just a bunch of our friend Jordan was in the room at the
Yeah,
time.
my roommate at the time.
Yeah, Matt's roommate at the time. Our former bassist Trevor. He kind of showed up later in the night that night, if I remember correctly.
He was in it though.
Yeah, he was
singing along and
Yeah, he was like moved. Yeah.
And then Carlos was not. We actually didn't even know Carlos at the time. Trevor brought him into the mix a little bit later.
This was a year before we played our first show, a full year.
yeah, because you had went.
Yeah, I ended up studying abroad and all this stuff. But
Cool, yeah.
Anyway, yeah. Sorry, we're hijacking your question.
No,
Honestly,
you're getting ahead and answering the next question. So we would have gotten there
On
anyways.
the topic of picture frames, though, I think that's like a pretty monumental song for us, just like in terms of what it meant for us down the line. It just opened the door to so much other creative moments, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of unique
So-
to have like such an, I guess, relatively like iconic first moment, at least
Yeah.
in your own minds and just like your own experience, and
Yeah.
you can bring in others later on.
Yeah, I think it started there. The next song that was like a genre-defining tune for us, I think, was Pen and Paper.
Oh yeah,
That song totally changed how we played together, how we approached songwriting for a while. I
You can
mean,
tell because it's like the structure of that song. A lot of our other songs follow it. It's like,
And the vibe of it has that like something about picture frames is like it felt nostalgic in the room while we were writing it. Like, but now looking back, it's just nostalgic because it's like we were just kids, we weren't even a band yet, and like all that good stuff. But like the way it's like the subject matter, really, it's like that was the first time I ever wrote a song about like with lyrics that weren't about something specific, that were like an amalgamation of different things, kind of like worked into a sort of fantasy, and it like. I think because of that, it created something so relatable. You know what I mean? Something so like that, like everyone can kind of tap into. I don't really know how to verbalize it.
I mean, sometimes songs are like written about someone's very specific, very personal experience,
Yeah.
and it's pretty detailed, and then people can identify and empathize with that. But it sounds like with this song, it was just kind of an outpouring of emotion that's more. It's inspired by something very specific, but it kind of creates
Totally.
a broad well that people can kind of
It was
dip into.
inspired
Yeah.
by like I pulled from feelings about my like high school girlfriend. I pulled from feelings about the girl I grew up next door to, Abigail Greenberg. She's still like one of my favorite people in the world. She's awesome. We're still like super good friends. We've known each other since we were like 3. But like the handprints in wet cement is like doing those like weird little things that you do when you're kids, and they like chill on the front step of your house.
yeah. I mean, we might as well just talk about what that song's about, because I mean, maybe it's different for everyone here, but
Totally.
For me, it's about like knowing someone so well and just being like a part of their life, and then time passes and you don't even know if this person is the same person anymore, you know? Like they're totally different, and you're still have so much emotion and feeling towards who they used to be.
It seems like you guys haven't updated your website in like forever, so it was hard to find like any, I guess, outside inspiration for like more specific questions. But the most interesting thing that was in your little bio is about how you started out just kind of playing like these improvised house shows, kind of what it sounds like led to the creation of picture frames. Was it just kind of like they weren't even structured as shows? It's just like you all were there just jamming, and people were also there who weren't playing,
it'd
that
be
kind of
like
thing.
A party, with groups of people that at least most of them knew each other very well, so everyone's very comfortable with each other, right? And we would, someone would be like, "Oh, you guys are playing music, right?" And like, "Yeah, can we show you something?" And it would just start, and then it would grow into, we'd be throwing covers in there.
Yeah.
Other people would be passing the instruments around, and
Yeah, I think we
this
had-
whole group of people that, some kind of pockets that knew each other were all coming together in this kind of communal space. That was one of the most incredible experiences. Obviously, this happened a lot of times.
I've gotten to know other bands from doing that a lot, I would say, too. Like Laska, who we know very well,
Yep.
play with all the time, and they're playing with us at this upcoming show. The first night we played with them at Triple Rock, RIP.
Pour one out.
I know, right? Fuck, I love that place. They came back to us, back home with us, and just like jammed with us in like our living room, along with the guys in Early Eyes as well. Moments
I'll
like
never
that all
forget
the
that.
time, just like so much fun.
That's like
We heard Mookie sing like this song that they hadn't even finished yet. Like she had just started writing it on her own. I don't think she was done with it. But it's like this room full of like a bunch. We were like seniors in college. It's a bunch of like 22-year-old dudes, and like Mookie grabs a guitar. She's like 18, and she's just like sings this song, and it's dead quiet for like 5 minutes. Like everyone just can't even breathe. It's so beautiful.
It's powerful, yeah.
Yeah.
They had skills.
Yeah, she's amazing. All of them are incredible. Yeah.
when did you guys start doing? I guess since you started playing shows, and then you do these like collaborative things afterwards or in between. when did you guys start actually like writing the songs outside of these? Did you ever do that, or were they all just kind of like one of you would have an idea or something, or have some lyrics, and they would evolve through these
Yeah, I think
gatherings, I guess?
that's a good question. I think each song maybe is a little different.
Of course.
But especially in the beginning, I would come up with a guitar part, and we would hang out in smaller groups, like maybe one or two of these singers here, and we would come up with a skeleton or maybe just like a general idea, like a verse and a chorus, and then bring that to the rest of the crew and then develop it in these communal jam sessions.
Okay.
That's kind of mainly how it started.
I wouldn't even say that a lot of the writing happened in these jam sessions. Like it would be just kind of the band members or like a select 4 out of the 6 of us together writing them.
Even just like 2 or 3. It's different. It's one thing when we come up with like the outlines of a song, so like lyrics, or at least what will become the lyrics, and like melodies, and then like just a guitar part usually. But you know, there are times where like right now we have probably like 4 or 5 songs that have skeletons written that we haven't even started to really dig into as a band and like really arrange and like flesh out. So I guess to answer the question, it's like it would start with 1 or 2 people in the room together. You never know whether like an idea that I had for a verse might work with something that Matt has for guitar until, you know, we're in the same room and we're hearing it over each other. So
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. That's really unique. Even like most bands that we've talked to, if they have like kind of more jammy mindset for developing songs, it's just them. Whereas you guys are kind of bringing it back and forth with larger groups of people and then smaller groups. Do you think that has affected the way the songs have developed? Like maybe there's like a song that you guys developed more internally, does that like contrast at all with maybe like the more communal songs, I suppose?
Yeah, there are certain parts, I guess, in actually, well, I guess there's one song I'm thinking of in particular, which is To Let You Find Yourself, another new song that's going to be on Homemade Jams, but there's a gang vocal part in it.
Yeah.
I guess that kind of inspiration is drawn from, you know, singing in groups of people, because it sounds so good, right? All the voices smoothing themselves out and kind of leveling each other out. You know, I guess that's one good example I have.
Yeah, and I think that's a good example of the communal side, but that does vary, you know, from song to song. And there are certain songs where Phil will have the whole skeleton written, and maybe it's more personal to him, and it's not something where we would write it that way.
And the thing is, something that I'm trying to work on and hopefully I'm getting better at as a writer is like writing things, and like even if it is really emotional, like trying to like let go of that a little bit. I think To Let You Find Yourself is a good example. I wrote the skeleton of that song and all the lyrics of that song within 45 minutes, about 5 days after a breakup, right? And to come into it, like you'll hear the rhythmic section at the end, and that came from Matt and I jamming on it. And that's like how it evolved. Like I kind of let go of what I thought the song was supposed to be. Because at the end of the day, we're a band. Like this isn't the Phil Levine Project. This is Stoner Childs. And like, I'm not writing these songs for them to be just for me. I'm writing these songs because I need to write them, but like, it's a product of all 6 of us.
And yeah, you're not locking them down.
I'm trying not to. Sometimes I probably do and act like a little bit of an asshole.
And sometimes that's just what it is, you know what I mean? Like if you're trying to get this message out, like of course it's going to be coming from the depths of your soul. You know what I mean? It's not going to be, it's not always going to be written with a group in mind. But Phil, you know, he does write a lot of parts with us other singers in mind, you know, like, oh, this is definitely going to work with this voice, or, you know, stylistically, that happens a lot, I'd say. Are
you the primary lyricist, Phil? I know you mentioned, I think one of you mentioned that.
For most of the songs.
Most of them? Okay.
Yeah. But Alex is responsible for $10 Day.
Killer.
And then Kingdoms. Foreign Ink, like, and we collaborate on everything too.
well,
Like,
yeah.
if Alex is writing something and like he asks my opinion, like I'll be like, hey, like how about we try this word here, and I do the same thing with these guys for sure.
I'd say if you stacked it up, Phil definitely writes the most words.
Lyrically, yeah, has the biggest contribution.
But you know, like there's other parts to it too. Like sometimes I'll come up with like a vocal melody, and that'll be like sort of like the base of it, and then he'll write words to it or rework words I already wrote. It just depends. It's a huge collaborative
Yeah,
effort.
very fluid. Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
That kind of leads me into my next question, continuing with like the fluid communal aspect of the band. Just I think a couple days after you played your first show, you started uploading the live local sessions onto your YouTube channel, which has been. It was interesting to kind of dive into that a little bit more, like yesterday and today when I was prepping for this. What gave you guys the idea of putting like these live sessions online? Was that just a way of
Young the
building?
Giant, like it's just straight up Young the Giant. Like,
Consideration at least.
Yeah. I mean, there are tons of bands that do stuff like that.
Yeah.
And honestly, the real meat of it is that it's much easier to record one mic in a living room, or like the first one might have been outside, but it's so much easier
getting
than
in
to
the
rent
studio.
some studio time, find some producers, find some mix like masters. You know, we just wanted content.
and it's all friends too that do it. Like our friend
Yeah.
Aiden, who's a phenomenal guy and like really multi-talented. He does sound for those. Our buddy Andrew Cumming films all of them. Like these are like friends. It's not like we're hiring this out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So
the easiest way to get the music
And-
out there.
Shout out to both of them for helping us on that stuff.
they are killer.
Ton of
Yeah.
hard work.
Super professional guys, and also have a good time when we're working with them.
Yeah.
But they these videos, like a lot of these songs were written that way, you know. So it's kind of like you get some insight into how the songs sound as we're writing them.
Yeah, especially since I think in almost every case, absolutely every case, they're songs that were released online before they came out in any recorded capacity, no matter what EP or release they were on, which was probably the most interesting thing about it. Like, oh, these songs have existed for like 2 or 3 years before they were ever put out on Spotify or
Vocal
Bandcamp or
Calls
whatever.
Only was written in the summer of 2016, and that's just coming out right now. we opened our first show with that, and now it's opening the EP Homemade Jams out everywhere 11/26.
I think that just comes down to like, what do you have available that's like polished enough to release, and what sounds good together. And that obviously when we came out with Kingdoms, we felt like those were the best, even though we already had songs that we're now just releasing written at that time. And the other thing is, it's easy. You want to get content out. And so a lot of those songs, it's just like easy for us to put out a quick video that takes us an afternoon and then some post editing, versus like, recording it, which takes
Forever.
forever, literally. Yeah.
And we were like blown away with the response on those too. Like we did not I put those out expecting like, just some friends and family to watch them. And I was
Like share
really
maybe,
surprised how many, people would watch those. So
Oh, I thought we were going to be absolutely famous. I'm just
Our moms thought we'd be on that.
A group
Yeah,
of
our
stars
mom,
is born.
my mom and Matt's mom are trying to get the band on Ellen, and like I don't think my mom understands how Ellen works. Like she's like, we can do it, we can get you on Ellen. I'm like, yeah, go for it.
Just go viral in a Walmart or
Energy, Leslie,
something.
keep it up.
Yeah, just Alex, you kind of touched on this a little bit. Since a lot of these songs have just existed for so much longer than, or so much more time before they were put on anything. How do you normally go about like selecting which ones? Is it just like, okay, we have these songs, you just kind of get together and think about like, we want to put something out. What songs do we think that are ready to record right now would go out? Like, do you decide it before recording?
Yeah.
After? I'm assuming not after.
I think we only have like the insight at the time of where the songs are at that time. So it's hard to say like, this one's developed enough. Sometimes there's a song that we have a lot more work to do, but we feel like it will fit into a release, and we'll kind of push it forward and work on it more. That's happened a couple times.
There's a couple songs that we chose for the season So, like, there's a video that we shot next to a pile of wood in a porch, and like Autumn Brown. It's the perfect.
Yeah, we were like, we got to get this done before it turns, and now it's been 2 years, and we're putting it out in the end of November, 2 years later.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did the best.
And I guess when it comes to like what goes well together on releases, like actual recordings, not just those like videos, it's hard to explain, but a lot of times it ends up being songs that are written around the similar time frame.
Yeah.
That just because they sound similar, there's some inspiration that's similar across them that they're all coming from. But it's really hard to explain and put into words.
Something that's like really important to me is to have each release kind of be a cohesive thing. Like some albums maybe feel like each song like you're flipping through pictures, where some albums are more like you're watching a movie.
Yeah.
And so it's like all kind of one central vibe, and you'll notice that with our releases. Like Kingdoms is so much different than An Idle Mind.
Yeah.
And these next two are going to be different in their own right.
Yeah, these two, like a lot of people have been asking me personally, like, why 2 EPs instead of an album? And I'm like, because these two are just such like EPs. And I think one of the things about all of us, you know, working full time and being like, you know, this is a side project, is that we have the luxury of making sure that the music goes out exactly how it should go out, and like being able to prioritize that and not have to worry about the money as much, because like at the end of the day, like it's a little more serious than that, but it's still a hobby. So like we can make sure that the art comes first and like release things in a way where Homemade Jams belongs together and Season Sublime belongs together.
Yeah, let us know if we did well. Or
Yeah.
if we had a better idea.
Definitely thought of putting these on like an album.
Even like a double album?
It's
Just one album.
Just one? Okay.
Putting them all together. We've thought about that. Like Matt said, the most important thing for us is to make sure that it's cohesive. That whatever we decide, it makes sense together. Whether that's 3 different sets of 3 or just 9 songs all together.
Could have done what.
And typically it's based on the style of the music itself, and then the idea of the song, I guess, as well.
Could have done what Coldplay just did, where they do 2 shorter albums as one album instead of like the full 90-minute double album, because honestly, who has time to listen to that most of the time these days?
I feel like I see a trend of, at least the artists I listen to, moving away from long albums. Totally. It still happens, but I see a lot.
It's mostly just rappers that are stream baiting.
Well, you look at people like Peach Pit and Pine Grove, and like obviously like these are like our heroes, or I won't speak for anyone else.
We all love both. Phil loves them probably more than I know.
I fucking love Pine Grove. Like I'm serious. Like, okay, so Pine Grove recently on Spotify got added to our people also like whatever.
Related
so like
artists
if you
or
listen
whatever?
to a Stoner Child song, a Pine Grove song might come on after, and that like the algorithm like made me want to cry. Like the
algorithm made me want to cry.
That's the sweetest thing an algorithm has ever done for me.
I can't wait for like the AI concept EP that comes next about how algorithms make you cry.
I'm gonna marry Spotify's AI. No one's ever loved me more than Spotify's AI. In that moment.
Do you want us to cut that out in post?
Yeah.
No?
Whatever. It's true.
Fix that in post, right?
No. My mom would definitely object to that.
She'd ask you if Spotify is Jewish first.
Yeah, she would ask me if Spotify was Jewish. Yeah.
Is the algorithm kosher? Oh my god.
Yeah. Is this algorithm kosher? Oh my god. Probably. Hope so.
Yeah. Back to the point. You guys have put out, with only one exception, little Hello Shorelines, have put out, I guess, 2 sets of double EPs. These ones are coming out at the same time. And Idle Mind and Kingdoms came apart like a season apart. Has that been like a conscious thing? Like, I know you talked about how you group the individual EPs, but like grouping them almost in 2s, and then how these are coming out same day, same time, and then the other 2 came out separately. Because I feel like Kingdoms versus An Idle Mind, you kind of mentioned this, are polar opposites in a lot of ways, like sonically, just tonally, lyrically, everything. Like almost to be completely over the top, light and dark a little bit. Very loosely, we don't need like maybe this is a good and evil thing. These 2 are different in their own respects, but they're, I guess, more there's more overlap, at least kind of. That's what I gathered in listening to
us. They're more us.
Okay.
And the songs are written, I think, like a little bit from more of a mature standpoint. In this, I've been thinking a lot lately about how like when you're writing from an emotional space, you're writing from like a point in an emotional arc, right? Like you're writing tangentially, and that piece of art that is going to express that is going to just like kind of be where you were through that emotional process, and just kind of live there forever. And I think the older I get personally, the later in that emotional arc I'm starting to write. Like I'm taking more time to figure out how am I feeling, asking kind of like those deeper questions of myself so that I can give a more honest and nuanced response rather than just, you know,
Kind of
having
putting it
telling
on the page
Daniel
right
to,
away.
to scream, you know, like rather than having Daniel scream, it's like coming from like a little bit of a quieter voice that's still just as poignant,
scream.
and still just as
Yeah,
honest. but
you're the hardcore vocalist. Use a clean vocalist.
yeah,
I think
we're all the Creed vocalists.
by the time we got around to writing these next round of songs, we had just really found our place individually in the band. You know, each one of us, you know,
Yeah.
we know what we need to do to make the songs really click, and I think we capitalized on our synergies.
Carlson.
That's so beautiful. Yeah.
Boy over here.
But to answer your question in terms of like our planning our releases, we just record them and put them out. And at
you do.
first, yeah, at first we would just take the studio for a weekend, and so that's the result of Kingdoms. And then we got another weekend a couple months later, and that's Idle Mind. And this time we kind of planned ahead a little bit more, took some time away from work, and went out to Eau Claire. We recorded all 10 or 12 if you include the intros to the EPs, all 12 songs, and then we decided to split them up into two.
Yeah.
And strategically, you know, it might have made more sense to space out the releases, but we're at a point where we have this music recorded. Like the songs that we've been playing them at shows for years. Like,
Yeah.
we got to get this out there.
Yeah, we want to
So
share it
hard
with
to
people.
hold that back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we again, like I could give a shit whether or not like I'm still in a band, but I just want to keep making music and like sharing that music with people because I'm so proud of what we make together. Like
Yeah.
I really do like feel something when I hear it or play it, regardless. And I want people to be able to experience that.
Yeah,
and
it always
get something
baffles
out of
me
it.
when bands are just sitting on like an archive of songs. Like Joe interviewed the band Partition like a month or so ago, and their front person has like 4 to 5 albums written that they just that are ready to go pretty much, and they're just now putting out their first album in like 2020, and they've just been sitting on this well of
got-
songs, just like
And there's always
Put them
gonna
out.
be a well.
Damn.
I know. There's always going to be a well, right? Like what would you guys say as far as songs that are written and finished? There's like
There's got to be over 30,
something?
35, something
Yeah.
like that.
And so you're always going to have extra stuff. So we kind of sat there, we're like, okay, we haven't recorded in a while. We'd love to put some new music out. Here's our bank of songs.
Yeah.
What fits together? Do we need to wait and write more and see if we can, put something
Also,
cohesive together?
letting
Also, quick
songs
answer.
mature too. Like that's the
Yes.
other thing.
True.
Like sometimes I feel like it takes a
change a
year
lot.
of playing something live. Like if you listen to the local session of Nothing's Gonna Change, it's horrible. It's so fast. Like we're not vibing in the way that we vibe with that song now, with the way it sounds recorded. Like it's just better now because we gave it time to like actually play it on stage a ton and figure out the nuance, and like some of that doesn't happen on purpose. It just comes from doing it.
And then the other variable involved that I don't think has been brought up is money, of course, right? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Achieving economies
we
of scale.
Save up all the money
Right,
that,
Matt?
that we make from shows and selling merch, outside of maybe paying people out for parking or things here and there. We save it all up, and then that money goes into paying for producing music. So, we have to see how much we have, and that also determines like how big of a project we're gonna go.
Because we don't want to do this stuff if we're not going to do it right. So like we want to spend the money that it takes to work with people like Evan Middlesworth at Pine Hollow, who just elevated us this time around. Being able to spend the extra money and the extra time and do it right, like we got so much more out of these
I
songs.
mean, not that it was done wrong, I would say.
No.
with the last studio, it's just different, and we're growing, and we needed
needed
production to
someone
follow that
who
as
like
well.
kind of like fit with our vibe and like gave us like a little bit different of an experience, and Evan was unbelievable in that regard.
Yeah, I think whoever runs the Instagram most commonly mentioned that, correct me if I'm wrong, is he someone who's like recorded with Laska? Is he a member?
He
He's
plays
recorded with-
guitar for Laska.
Okay,
and
he's in
also
the
has
band.
recorded all of their work.
Yeah. Okay.
He's
Plays piano for them too.
yeah,
just
he's just an
whatever they
unbelievable
need.
guy.
We'll fill it in. For sure.
Yeah, he loves those girls to death. He's an
For good
amazing,
reason,
amazing person. And so are they, by the way. Like
Yeah.
we're gushing over their music, obviously, but I think it's like worth
We heard
saying. Yeah, I mean it's so beautiful, but
Yeah.
I think like it's also worth saying that the Morden sisters are three of the most just like empathetic, like kind, artistic women I've ever met. Like they're amazing people.
I think they're putting out like a single the day of the release show. Or
Yes,
like,
they are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
day of. That's bold.
They are.
Hijacking the EP release.
Yeah,
Single release.
Yeah.
We approve.
Come on,
We've
midway through, you
hijacked
guys
them
said-
in other ways. We've stolen.
We stole their old our bassist used to be their drummer.
And then they got Keegan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
They have
And then
Keegan now, who's
yeah.
also phenomenal.
Oh yeah.
Mookie came up to me and she was like, "Don't steal him. He's ours. You understand?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
We stole their producer. Yeah.
Borrowed. Yeah.
Hey, I mean, they find great people.
They really do.
Steal their talent.
Yeah, it's like Space Jam.
That's funny. A lot of what you guys have talked about as far as inspirations for the songs go has been very emotional, whether it's specific or broad, whatever it is. Is that, would you say, like the primary or only inspiration that leads into the creation of songs? Like lyrically, obviously that'd be the most direct, I guess, connection, whether like the emotion is reflected in the lyrics. But it also kind of affects the performances, like how you guys are, like what level or what plane you're on, like mentally when you're recording. Or are there other influences and inspirations that kind of sneak into the song, sneak into the lyrics or whatever?
I
And
think from a
change
technical
it?
standpoint, definitely. Like there are things you'll hear listening to music, and you're like, I want to emulate that in my own way as a guitarist or as a singer or whatever you might play. I think like the technical aspects of the songs and the emotional aspects of the songs are so intertwined. I tend to focus a little bit more on the emotional aspects,
Yeah.
and like making sure that if we do something that's kind of technically impressive, that it does kind of ladder up and add to whatever that emotional response is that we're trying to elicit, or like whatever that feeling we're trying to just like tap into. Anybody else want to talk?
Yeah. It's a shame that Carlos isn't here because I think he would have a completely different opinion than Phil on this. I think he
I do
is.
too.
We'll do a phone interview after the fact,
let's
add him in.
Skype him in.
Photoshop, is that how that works?
Yeah.
I think it's Lightroom, actually.
Yeah. But he has such a particular style, and it took some time for everyone here to be able to jive, together with that kind of like mindset and approach. He cuts the song into subsections and then subdivides those and sees like
There's a
what
lot
kinds
of
interesting things
sections
he
in
can
a lot of
add.
your songs.
Yeah, and even like instantaneous or like within a measure, he'll chop it all up and add like a bell hit on the ride here, or like a tom here. And so for him, I feel like his approach to writing is very methodical, or is that the word? I don't know.
I think so. Versus emotional,
Yeah. But he has found a way to do what he does best within the context of this band, and it's absolutely unreal. Like just how much energy we take from him when we're playing. He is like,
Yeah, if you ever look at photos, his face is always just like crazy. Like,
Despite Noah being the one that's memed all the time.
well, we just do that because it makes him uncomfortable. It's
Oh no.
Yeah, he can just handle it like the least well.
Yeah. Well, he's deceased. You can't do that to him anymore.
yeah, he's always just like yeah. What's that photo up there?
Anything to add for you guys? Since for what lyrics you have contributed, what songwriting you have contributed?
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
Give Alex a spotlight.
Yeah, I don't have too much to add that I can think of. I mean, it's all, of course, based off emotion. You don't write a song if you don't feel something for it, whatever that is. Just depends on what that emotion's coming from. Could be an ex-girlfriend. Could be another ex-girlfriend. Could be another
What are you trying to say?
ex-girlfriend.
What are you trying to say, man?
Could be just like a nostalgic experience. Could be something you're struggling with in your other usually, you know, it has to do with people or experiences, I would say. Those are the things that draw the most emotion.
Even the jammy ones too. Like you can, I think like if I'm not being the person to drive the bus on writing a song, like local calls only, for example, like Matt like wrote a guitar part and I wasn't necessarily going through anything too terrible at that point, but I remember just being like, how is this making me feel? Like, what are the words coming to my mind? And the first thing that came to my mind when he did the was the I've been driving through Wisconsin, and then like a whole song came out of that like vibe.
The vibe of Wisconsin. Yeah.
Yeah, the vibe of driving through
The
Wisconsin.
vibe of Culver's.
yeah,
and
trying to not stop because I'm just kidding.
That's fair.
I'm from Chicago, so I have driven between here and Chicago probably like 50 times.
We have a goal to stop at every Culver's between here and Chicago.
At some point.
It's excruciating.
Yeah,
Too many Butterburgers. Oh my
yeah.
God.
To the dismay of my mother's toilet in Northbrook, Illinois.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding.
You guys aren't. It's weird to kind of think of how to qualify parts of the Minneapolis Twin Cities scene, because oftentimes when people say that, they just mean like the house show circuit and like the bands that are always playing that. But ultimately, I would argue it includes pretty much any band that's like recording and gigging in the cities, even if like they aren't doing every show here. Tours exist, but compared to kind of like the typical, I'm putting that in air quotes, aspects of the scene, the typical bands. Since you guys are kind of outside of that, like you have the people that you've played shows with repeatedly, Goodnight Gorillas, love them. Laska, haven't interviewed them, but we still love them. And so on. I think there's probably some others. I briefly stalked the Facebook events on the Facebook page.
Yep.
Since you guys are kind of have that outside perspective where you're kind of just carving your own path instead of trying to get into something, how has that like, I guess, affected who you play shows with? If you have any say in that, just how you perceive things as participants?
There's a killer scene in Minneapolis, like for house shows, and I know there's tons of hardcore bands that are pretty big in Minneapolis.
A lot more than you would think.
Yeah, right. Like it's all underground, and it's so cool. I mean, we have no opposition to that.
No, I'm not trying to be like, hey, talk smack about the hardcore bands.
No.
That's not what the question was.
No,
If anything, we were in that a little bit more in our earlier time, probably just because of our age group, more exposure to other people. We played house shows and stuff.
Vibes Part 1 and 2.
Maybe less so now.
Shout out to that art collab that happened over in Dinkytown. Yeah, Dinkytown. But I think we're just doing what we can with the resources that we have available to us.
Yeah.
You know, we meet these people organically, like Inland Coastal. We play with them maybe half our shows.
Yeah. Okay.
We know these guys
that's the
from
name that
way
was
back.
escaping me.
Yeah, we know these guys from way back. Like they were involved in some of the living room jams that we talked about. And these are just the people that we know, and that's how we book our shows. And maybe some other band will get on the bill.
I mean, there's such an inclusive scene here. Like there's this band called Aldrich. I don't know if you know them.
No,
it's
I
like
haven't.
a duo. Ben works at the Spy House near where I work, and like we talk music all the time because like I'd walk in there for a coffee and it would just sound awesome. I'd be like, what are we listening to right now? And like I see this guy at shows and like we want to play a show with them. They're amazing. Like Verluna, who's also opening up the show. Verluna is this wonderful band from Chicago. I was in town about a year ago, and a buddy of mine saw me on Snap Maps that I was in town. He was like, yo, I got an extra ticket to a So Far. You want to go? And we heard them, and I like was just like, oh, these guys are insane. Ran up to their lead singer after the show, and you just ask, like, you just like say, hey, like, I want to play a show with you sometime.
I want to
like,
collaborate
do you
in
want to come and
some
do
way.
this with us? And like,
And at first, I think it started with people asking us. Like, I remember when we first started, I think we booked our first show at Norseman, like, did that ourselves. But after that, it was like we just kind of took, you know, bands that we played with at the last show would ask us to play another show, and we take that. And it was just kind of like, took what we got, you know?
Ask us to play. Yeah,
And now we're lucky to have like built a relationship with some bookers at certain venues and be able to book our own stuff more than we used to, and that affects it too. Yeah, you know.
I think if like in terms of advice for, you know, like how do you guys like go play shows? Like how did you start?
How'd you get the
doing
Ice
that?
House?
Yeah, so we literally like you just if you are passionate about something, you do it. You find other people that are passionate about it. Like that first show that we booked at Norse, and maybe that wasn't our first show, but our first venue or bar or whatever. Like Phil and I were just playing guitar out on the Stone Arch Bridge, like just singing some harmonies, and some people approached us and were like, "Hey, you guys should like talk to this booker or whatever." And like if you
Serendipitous.
if you just go and do this stuff, like it comes together.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, there's no right or
about
wrong
that.
way to start playing shows or like find venues. But if you want to find a venue, there's no problem being honest about that. You know, like if anyone right now is listening to this and they like want to play a show with us, like slide into our DMs, like hit me up and I'll check out your music and I'll show it to the guys. And like that's how we find bands that we want to play with. And I'm hoping that there are other bands that are gonna find us and want to play with us through that stuff.
We
So
want to stay with, you know.
totally.
Yeah, that's kind of like the key to the scene right there.
Yeah, it's that like you're writing this stuff because you love it. Like when I go to see Goodnight Gorillas, like even if we're not playing with them, like I'm in the front row and I'm screaming every lyric. Like you know what I mean? And it's because like I think their music taps into something, and like it's the same reason I love Laska and like bands like Last Import that are super cool. Like you know, there's a million local bands that are so awesome.
What do you guys want to get out of the band? That's a very big question, and it will probably echo a lot of what we've talked about. This has been a very free-flowing interview, which I think is awesome. What do you guys want to get out of Stone Arch Isles, and what do you want other people to get out of that? Because even if it's kind of the same, it'll be different in that just because of who you are, because of who is hearing it, who is seeing you guys.
Yeah, ultimately, I mean, really broad stroke answer. I just want to keep having fun. Like that is the reason we got into this in the first place. And I remember Phil saying this when we started to get a little bit more serious about like trying to book shows and you know meet
record,
record and all that stuff. I remember him saying like, "Hey guys, like I just want us all to remember we can't stop having fun with this. That is the most important thing, that we continue as serious as it gets, wherever direction this goes." And that really stuck with me.
If it's not fun, why would we spend so much time doing it, you know?
Yeah, especially at like the local level, because you're probably not getting enough money to justify it.
Definitely not.
If you count like
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
recording and stuff. And then also on another hand, I love it when people can connect to it on a deep level. You know what I mean? I mean, it's really fun to have people rocking out at a show and jamming and dancing, just having a good time. We feed off that energy. But then there are people that'll be like, "Hey, like this lyric, this line, like really touched me. It really means something," you know. That's an amazing experience as like a songwriter, as a group of musicians, to have that effect on people is incredible. So I mean, that's a large hope, right? To have that continually happen.
Of course.
Hopefully we continue to put out music that's good enough to make people feel things. But I think for me personally, it's just I want to keep having fun with this.
Yeah.
Totally.
I think there's just a certain energy that kind of comes about when you're in a room with a bunch of people jamming on a central idea and everyone's on that same wavelength, you know? Like it's very powerful, and it's a release from like life, you know? Like for that moment, you are in it and you're present and you're not thinking about anything else.
Yeah, for performer and audience member.
Exactly.
listener,
So yeah, like
It's like meditative, you know?
it is.
Absolutely.
It's an escape for sure.
Anyone else got anything to add?
No, man, you guys hit it right on the nail. It's just about having fun and creating stuff that other people can also have fun with.
Music is fun. I think for me, I think a lot about like the like loci of control, of like I can't control whether or not someone else is going to connect with this shit. Like I just can't. So for that reason, like to me, making music is like almost selfish in that like I'm not motivated by how other people are going to feel about it. And I think like balancing like not necessarily being motivated, but still being so deeply appreciative of it. Like if someone says something about like a lyric in a song or like just anything about this music making them feel something, or like if it just gets them through the day, like I know that there's songs that I throw on to just get through the day. And like to think that we could do something like that is incredible. And I by no means want to minimize that, but for me, it's like you can't control what other people are going to think when you're making something. So
It's
if
not the expectation.
Yeah.
To do it at all.
So like when I am writing personally, and like I don't want to speak for anyone else in the band about this because I think it's different for everyone and some in different combinations of ways. It's always from this place of like, what do I need to say? Like, what do I need to create? And like, I want to make something that I will love. And that I'll want to keep playing or keep listening to, because at the end of the day, I'm only in control of my own opinion and like how I feel about it. So like, let's make something that like I love and that like each one of us can love in our own way.
I think music in general can be pretty selfish. Like you make a playlist for yourself, you know, like, and you use that playlist for whatever you use it for. Maybe it's to go to sleep. Maybe it's to like hype you up. Like Phil once told me, he's like, man, I was that kid one day, you know, like putting songs on a playlist. And if we can be that addition or that, you know,
It's such a
to someone else's like personal
Yeah.
life, like
it's such a
we can-
strange organic
Yeah.
way of
Yeah.
If
people
we're on
finding-
someone's breakup playlist, like hit us up and like we'll send you a shirt. Like that's that's
That's
amazing.
the Pine Grove being on Stone Our Child's radio. That's the next biggest thing.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
yeah. But I have said, and I'll say it again: if we play a Tiny Desk, I'm cool kidding. I'm cool quitting music
yeah.
forever.
Oh yeah, if we had to just have like one event that we could
Yeah,
do.
Tiny Desk, and then I'm cool quitting forever.
That's the end of the serious questions, unless anyone else has anything else to add. Serious is in quotes because
Thank you so much for listening to anyone that's listening. Thank you, because like again, when I say like it's selfish to create it and like you can't be motivated to create by other people, that again does not mean that it doesn't affect each and every one of us on such a like visceral level that someone would choose to go listen to one of our songs, because like it is so easy to choose to not listen to something or to like not go out of your way to find like some local band or whatever. So the fact that like that is not lost on any of the six of us.
Right. We can't expect to continue to get that from people, but we love it so much. And,
Yeah,
and
appreciate it while it's here. Yeah.
Definitely. We cherish it.
That's why we appreciate the Your Coffee guys so much. Like
Oh.
bringing that, you know, flavor to so many more
Yeah.
people, and like I'll read anything you guys post. Like I don't even know these
you
bands.
give such a
That's all I
shit
do.
about the music. It's not just like, hey, this is out and like this is what this band's all about. It's like, here's how this song made me feel, and like you get in the weeds on this stuff, and it's like you care. You know what I mean? And the fact that you care, like I'm sure it makes each and every artist just melt the way it makes us melt. You know, like it matters so much.
Yeah,
Our
Matt,
two-
Matt was saying after he read your thing on $10 a Day, he's like, dang, his writing about this song is better than the damn song.
No, that is, for the record, that is not true. I would not go so far to say that. If anything, it's just a vehicle to get people to listen to the music, because that's
we
the point.
appreciate it.
Our favorite two kind of trends are when parents get really excited about the music that their kids are making, and then they share our article, which is like
My mom has definitely shared your articles.
yeah, I think your mom, maybe I think one of your
Yeah,
might
probably.
have.
Biggest demographic.
Why not? Irv Dell, Isaac's dad, loves and follows us on Instagram. It's so funny. And then when bands, whether they're joking or not, because like it's the internet, you can kind of say whatever you want. Saying like, "Oh, your article made us cry." It's like I don't know if that's literal or not, but even just thinking about that is so strange and validating. It's super funny.
Yeah,
Because usually it's the music. It's the other way around. It's the music making us or making other people feel those emotions.
Yeah.
Right, but like when you're putting something out, man, like I don't know, like if you're talking to a significant other, if you're talking to a family member, or even just a good friend, and you get to a point where you have to be truly vulnerable in like the calm sense, where you're not yelling and you're just being honest about how you feel about something, and like it's painful and beautiful and also kind of a release. It's like this complicated, gorgeous feeling, and I think it's like the most human you can be. And that's like what we're trying to do with each and every one of these songs. So if this song like hits someone in any way, it feels like being heard, you know?
Yeah.
It just fees like someone accepting
On a
you
deeper
for who
level.
for who you really are on like the deepest level. Because for me, these songs are like a, you know, like name any one of them, and it's like there's a piece of my soul in each one of these, and it's like
The two questions, or at least one of the two, that I like to add at the end. I like to start and end my interviews kind of in a nice little sandwich. And everyone has a different answer for these questions. Who would be your local dream collab? Like, who would you want to work with? Like, you can say Prince, but do you really want to say Prince? I mean, probably. But like, currently, like, alive, working in the scene, whether you know them personally or not, it could be anyone. And if everyone has an answer, I'd love to hear it. And then the second question is, what recent releases, albums or songs, local or otherwise, usually people give local answers, but if you're vibing with like something on a national level, shout that out. Like, I just love hearing what people are listening to.
I'm pulling up my Spotify.
Yeah, everyone pulls up their Spotify. We can edit the little pause that comes out when everyone's checking their phones to see what their recently played is. Yeah, but we can, whenever you guys are ready, we can go around the semicircle and
Yeah,
See?
sure.
Okay.
I can start on the first question. Local collabs. I mean, we love Alaska so much. We've already
do a collab. Oh my
Imagine just doing something with like all 6 of us singing.
We've talked about like
Yeah.
if you watch like the Ovalos, like the style that they have, where they got like 2 drum kits and just a massive group, and they've got this big, powerful gang vocals just all live. It's like so amazing. I mean, to do something like that with the bands that we already really like and play with a lot, like Inland Coastal, Alaska. I mean, that would be really fun. Good Luck Finding Iris.
Oh my.
Yeah, they're so good.
Really like. I mean, oh god, they're so good.
Sleeping Jesus is another one.
Sleeping Jesus.
Oh yeah.
Those guys are awesome. So nice too.
Fragile Canyons just put out a record.
They did.
Here
It's
It Is
pretty
is
sweet.
such a good song.
Yeah.
And like Cowboy Economy is a sick song. They put on a nuts show, by the way, if anyone wants.
Yeah,
to
people
catch
need to
them
see them.
sometime.
The memes are great, but see them live. Come on.
Say what you will about them, but Hippocampus would be a cool one. I mean, I feel like when we first started,
Say what
especially.
you want. Yeah, they're sick.
They're just
will be censored.
We've seen them like 8 times.
Oh, I love them. I'm only saying that in the fact that they've changed their style a lot.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
And so, you know, maybe.
As bands
whatever.
do.
But
Yeah.
I think that when we were first started, like, writing, they were a big inspiration for sure. And to see, like, a bunch of young guys that they're even younger than us, like, to go out there and do something super successful in a similar genre was pretty inspiring.
Yeah, they're one of the few, I guess, indie rock, that's in air quotes, bands that have kind of ascended a little bit past the scene.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
They're-
So that's just
they're a big
automatically an
deal.
inspiration
They're always
to
up
pretty
and
much
down the
anyone.
East Coast.
Like, oh yeah, that's why.
I would
they're
love
super
to, Joe, if you're listening, I would love to write a song with Joe Graves.
Oh
I think Joe is one of the oddest and best writers I've ever met.
Something tells me you can make that happen.
Yeah, Joe. I think Joe's writing lyrically is so like layered, and it's just
Oh, yeah.
like it's so deep. Like you can get so much out of it.
Dude, they put out a 3-piece
so
concept
funny.
album about love or something. Like, who? That's
Yeah,
just
they're
so
sick.
insane.
They're super dope. Like obviously, everyone else on the list is like a band that I would want to like play with. I would love to like pick Carrie from Bad Bad Hat's brain. She's an interesting person.
Yeah.
She's very odd on stage, but like she's awesome.
Lizzo, who wouldn't want to work with Lizzo right now?
And Daniel does a Lizzo impression that's pretty good.
Head toss, check my names, baby. How you doing? Feeling good as hell. Yeah, so
Nice.
Lizzo, hit me up. Hit me up.
Can't wait for the
If you-
Good
if
as
you
Hell
want more
cover.
of that, come to the show.
Get some covers.
So
Yeah,
locally,
fun, yeah.
everyone should check out Aldrich though. Check out Aldrich. They have a band. They have an album out called Hindsight. It's very like chill. Throw it on like in the morning. Throw it on when you're cooking. Just like it's really nice, like to just like help you relax. But they're really, really, really good.
Awesome.
On the national scale, Pine Grove would be the most amazing.
Oh yeah.
With the-
Yeah, I would shoot myself in the foot to just like have an hour-long conversation with Evan Hall about songwriting. Like I just want to know everything that goes through that guy's
I
head.
would personally say Tame Impala, just because of how many synths they use and how they do all that. I think that
Especially just like the
coming
one
from
guy
keyboarding, like I feel
production machine that Kevin
Fuck,
Parker
Kevin
is.
Parker, if I could pick his brain. If you're listening, Kevin, please come to Minneapolis so I can
Please
talk to you.
retweet us.
Yeah. Also, like, do anything at all, Kevin. We love you. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a tough question. I feel
Adam
like
Duritz from what band is that
I
again?
think the Counting Crows.
Yeah.
He shaved his dreads.
Dude, that song keeps playing in my car every time I get in, and like my
Mr. Jones.
yeah, Mr. Jones plays in my car every time my device connects. It's like
reason for it.
la 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 yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, every fucking time, dude. So that's cool. My Subaru is great besides that shit. I don't know what's going on there.
Dude, are you hating on the Crows right now?
The whole time you just had like a Counting Crows greatest hit CD in your car and you just can't get it on. It always just starts on with that.
No, I used to have that song on my playlist like in middle school for sure. Loved it. But after 1,000 times,
Yeah.
it gets a little...
Sorry, we interrupted Matt.
Yeah, no, I would suggest that we like collab with the singer of Creed, but all of these guys do a fantastic enough
It's pretty
impression
good.
on their own.
We love Creed.
don't
Sometimes
need
we'll
him.
sing our own songs in the Creed voice.
In the Scott
and-
Stapp voice.
Oh yeah, just in the middle of practice too, and like it'll like we'll be doing Lazy, and we'll like come in, and then you'll just hear like I've been known, and Matt'll be like, no, he'll be like, I'm not gonna keep playing the song, dude. No.
The people that know us really well and listen to us a lot, like, you know, come to practices and hang out and stuff like that, can attest to how annoying we are with that.
Yeah, it's so fun
We
to
won't
sing
repeat
like
it
that.
for you to hear.
It's
Yeah.
painful.
It's so fun to sing like that. If you ever find us after a show, we do a Great Finger 11 cover, Paralyzer. We're big
Maybe that
fans.
one will hit
Dude.
the stage at the EP release
Yeah,
show.
maybe
Who
no.
knows?
Come to the
Come
EP
and
Rock
find
show
out.
at the Amsterdam on the 6th of December here. And,
Oh, hey, I thought of another. This is, I know we're kind of tangenting, but I just had another band pop into my head.
What's up?
And Phil, I know you'll connect with this. Local Natives would be another.
Oh,
great
yeah,
on
my
the
gosh.
national scale.
Yeah, I Local Natives like changed my taste in music when I was a teenager. Like, and I love them. They're amazing.
continue to put out such good music consistently too.
Yeah, and have evolved in such a way that's like so clearly organic. Like no
Yeah.
one is telling them how to sound. They're just like, fuck it, let's try this. And that's awesome.
They're definitely back on their hot streak. I can agree with that.
Yeah, we have we have a long list.
Long
We'll
list.
go on forever if you let us.
Totally.
Well, this is just a fun way to get people to share the love with all the other bands because clearly it's there and just we're forcing you to verbalize it on a mic. Their release show is in 2 days from when you're probably hearing this. It's on December 6th at Amsterdam Barn Hall with Laska and Verluna
Yeah.
from Chicago.
Yeah.
I will have to check
Get there early.
Verluna out.
Both these bands are so worth seeing, you guys.
Those are all the questions I had. So again, unless there's anything else you guys wanted to
Cool,
add.
man. No, I mean,
No?
I don't have
Sweet.
anything to add. It's been a great time talking with you.
Yeah, thank you
Yeah.
so much.
The Ear Coffee Podcast is a companion to the blog of the same name. If you like this episode, please leave us a rate and review so we can stand out among the other music podcasts. You can follow us at Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram @EarCoffee. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.